Hey everyone, my name is Devin Moreno and I'm a Baltimore City investor now as of the recording of this video with 15 properties. And I've been documenting my journey from starting as a new investor and moving forward all the way into where I'm at now over the course of the last about almost 4 years. So this YouTube channel basically goes through all of that. And in one of my previous videos, I inform people why I don't do flips as a new investor. And while that was a very good video for a lot of people, there were a couple new investors who did approach me later on, and their circumstances were a little different from the average new investor, and they wondered if they should do flips. And they almost kind of took it as no new investor at all should do flips whatsoever, and you should stick to buy and holds. Well, there are actually some reasons why you should do flips as a new investor, why you could. I'm not saying should, but like why you could do it. So if you're confused on what I'm talking about on the reasons you should not, or why I didn't think any new investor should, you can definitely check out that video, link in the description down below. But today I want to go over why a new investor could flip new properties. And actually, for those who don't know, when I made that video, it's funny because I never flipped properties in the past, but then I started doing so actually probably only 1 month after that video published, and it was during the pandemic. And my situation was a little bit different. So let's go into it. If you're a new investor, the first one that I was talking about, which is the cosmetic or versus gut, I would say that if you're doing a cosmetic renovation, all right, just painting, flooring, the basic stuff, then okay. I might be a little bit more all right with a beginner doing a flip. The problem is a gut renovation has so many potential areas to have things go wrong. I actually had a flip with some mentees of mine who actually are in my, I'm going to call it a mentee program. I don't consider myself a regular mentor, but basically what they do is they lent money to me and then I help them along with their deals using my contractors, my resources, and I walk them along the way. So they lent me money at low interest rates. I talk about that in a lot of my videos. It's just a little service I offer. But they did this flip, and they actually had $50,000 of wiggle room in their property. They actually bought the property for $90K, and then the ARV was $220K. And this is going from memory. I'm going to be posting a video, full details on this thing. And the entire thing went $105,000, and it went way over budget because it ended up turning into a gut renovation where the plumber ended up leaving out on them. The plumber actually did a bad job and disappeared, and suing them was probably not in the cards there. We actually had the copper line stolen during the entire project, and so that all had to be redone when we didn't originally anticipate doing it. We actually were going to keep the wiring. It was this old knob and tube wiring, but we were like, you know what? Don't touch it. Well, the demo crews accidentally destroyed it and made it where, because it's really fragile, and so they made it where they had to redo the electrical, and so there were a lot of things that kind of helped this thing go wrong, not to mention drain issues and other little variations, plus all the things they didn't fix, which I'll end up explaining in that video. It really creates so many different variables. If you just stick to the painting, flooring, and probably fixtures, I would say that for a light cosmetic, not necessarily cosmetic where you're doing like ductwork or anything, nothing like that where you're tearing out walls, try to avoid that, then fine. Now, you might think, okay, those kind of deals don't make a lot of profit, but that's not true. In fact, I talk about a property on one of my videos where I made $50,000 on actually my first flip, and it was a cosmetic renovation. I didn't do anything much more than that. The next reason I might say, all right, fine, it's okay to flip, is if you're at least making excessive profit. What I would say is a minimum of 20K. I'm talking profit. After everything is done, all sales and all that, you got to be making at least 20K. If it's not that much, then you are not even looking at the deal. I know that sounds nuts, and a lot of you would go crazy to have just 10K, and I understand that. But if you don't have massive amounts of profit, you're going to find a flip to be a lot of stress. Because remember, unlike a buy and hold deal where you can make your money back over time from screwing up, in a flip, you either made money or you lost money. And if you end up in the circumstance where you lost money, that can be devastating for a lot of you, especially for the fourth reason that I'm going to go into for this video. So you need to make sure that you have a minimum 20K profit. I would say no less than 15% of the overall cost of the deal in profit. So you need at least that. So 20K or 15% of the overall deal, whichever is the smaller, I guess, or the larger of the two, is what you need to consider. Otherwise, I wouldn't even touch it. Even for a cosmetic reno, it's just too tight. You're going to end up running into even cosmetic renovations where something is in the walls or in the drain pipes, whatever, that you totally didn't expect, and it's going to completely burn through your cash. Or maybe the house sits for longer than you would have thought, or something of that nature. Remember, there's a lot of variables you can't control on a flip, most specifically with that end buyer. You're going to have a lot of situations where the home inspection is going to cost you more money than you expected. You're going to have situations where during the sale, something happens that you didn't expect. Maybe the buyer backs out randomly, unexpectedly, and you now are holding it for longer and it's sitting for longer days on market, and then you go into a worse market condition. There's many other variables. Whereas for a buy and hold deal, it's easy to calculate. The bank is going to give you 75% of the ARV done. You know how they think, you know how it works. You're not dealing with the emotionality of an end buyer. So just keep that in mind. I wouldn't flip unless I'm making those minimums. Another reason that I might be okay with a new investor flipping is, in combination with the other reasons, is if you are not going to get emotional during the transaction. If you're thinking you need to fix everything and make this the most brand new thing ever, you probably should stay away from flips. This is one of the biggest reasons that new investors lose a lot of money, and only with a buy and hold can you weather the storm of your mistakes. With a flip, like I said, you either made money or you lost money. And if you're going in there thinking that you need to renovate everything or make it a really nice quality project, or even if you're doing the bare minimum, you are not experienced with how to pick and choose what battles you really want to fight with the renovations, and maybe even, I know this sounds crazy, when to hide things, which unfortunately is a decision a lot of flippers are end up making. In fact, kind of a reason I tell people not to buy flipped homes, then you are going to lose money. Unfortunately, a lot of new investors think that they don't necessarily need to hide details. They can always give a good quality product and always still make a profit. Unfortunately, and I've walked many new mentees to a house, and I'll just start asking the questions. Do you want to fix that? That's going to cost you money. Or you can just ignore it, and it'll be the buyer's problem 3 years from now. Do you want to fix this? If you ignore it, it'll be the buyer's problem 5 years or 1 year from now or whatever. And you're going to find that as you keep getting encountered with these type of variables, because there's going to be so many of these things, which I'm going to explain in a video all of its own, you're going to realize you're suddenly not making any money. And this is the reality of the flipping industry. You are trying to make a profit. And if you think you're going to get emotional and you think this is wrong and all of that, then you probably want to stay away from flipping in excess, like flipping as a business. It may be a 1 or 2 time thing for you. I don't think new investors should do it if you're in that boat. But if not, and if you can make logical decisions that actually make you money, renovate only the things the buyer would care about. Super important there, only what the buyer would care about, okay? Because sometimes your buyers in these areas in Baltimore do not care that you added, AC or whatever. They just don't care. Like, it depends on the area, which is really in particular here. Then good. Then I would say, sure, you could probably flip. And the fourth and final reason that a lot of new investors don't fall into, but if you happen to have a lot of excessive cash, sure, then I think I would be more okay with you as a new investor flipping. So this is not always the case. I know there's a lot of YouTubers out there who didn't have excessive cash and they ended up flipping and making a lot of money. I'm not saying you can't do it. However, if you don't have any money like me, when I first started, you can end up losing a lot of money if you're using debt to finance the entire thing and then end up failing because you're a new investor who couldn't control your contractors, who don't know how to politically work against the emotions of the buyer, of the contractors, of everybody involved. If you are not someone who can very much work around that and you just expect to be able to come in there like a boss and demand everything be done the right way and whatnot, you're going to fail in this industry pretty fast, unfortunately. And so once you start failing on your first project and you don't have any money to pay your lender back, you're going to end up in a serious world of hurt. Now, the callers who ended up asking me about whether or not they should flip because they saw my earlier video and were like, oh, well, you said don't flip. Well, they were like sitting with $150,000 or more in the bank. So they're in a much better hedged position to be able to flip. It doesn't matter as much for them. They can afford to lose money on the deal. The deal that I just talked to you about earlier, where those sellers ended up, my mentees ended up kind of losing money because so many things went wrong. We kind of helped them out to get them out of this bad situation. Well, they were hedged by the fact that they had money sitting in the bank. They already were fine. So in that circumstance, sure. But otherwise, I would just caution against it, especially if you don't have the other three things that I just mentioned earlier in this video. So if you fall into those categories, then sure, I would say you can probably flip a house for your first deal as a new investor. But if you're like me when you first started out with minimal amounts of cash in the bank and no construction experience, then at least with a buy and hold, you can make up your money over time. I would recommend starting off with smaller deals that realistically don't involve you leaving too much cash in and have much surefire bets. Betting against what the bank is going to appraise it at is so much easier than wondering if someone out there, some person, is going to like your house as much as you think they should. That is a variable that kind of sucks. And so I'm just being real with you on this one. I probably would still, as a new investor, avoid flipping your first property. But yes, you can absolutely make a lot of money this way. But let me know. Let me know your thoughts below. If you ended up flipping a house in your first deal and making enormous profits, then hey, congratulations. Absolutely, it's definitely possible. Or let me know if you actually failed on your first flip and ended up losing a lot of money. I'm interested in those type of stories. So if you have any comments, just let me know below, and I will talk to you all very soon.